Okay, good. Okay, hi, I'm Paul. Welcome back to Plusma-cast. Today, I'm featuring Mr. Gurpreet Singh of Me.reka. So he's the keystone founder, mad scientist of this establishment, where it's you could say a fabrication lab or makerspace.
It's a 21st century education center. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So while we are going to talk about this, as usual in Plusma-cast, we cover the journey from idea to skills to where we are now, and also a bit about the future of being in the creative, doing creative work. So thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for having me, Paul.
Okay, so again, like typically with Plusma-cast, the first questions is that what were your earliest ideas in terms of, you could say, creative work, or maybe even just something you could do.
Or my earliest ideas of something that I created. Okay. I think I was a child, maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I invented something that I was really proud of.
Right.
It was chicken nuggets.
Okay.
With cheese on top.
Uh-huh.
And you put the cheese on it while it melts in the pan.
Okay.
And I was really excited about this. And then we had a tomato sauce and mayonnaise.
Okay.
That I would mix together into a Thousand Island sauce.
Right.
Because we couldn't afford to buy Thousand Island sauce. And based on a TV series that I enjoyed listening to on TV, it was called La Femme Nikita. So I called my dish La Femme Gurpreeto. And that was my first experience making.
As a child,
I remember.
As at that young age, regardless of whether it was a true invention or not, you just made something, right?
Yes, correct. At least I thought I made something, and I gave it a name, so it felt legitimate. That's what I felt like. Just to share a story, right? So I was hanging out with my 6-year-old niece yesterday. Mm-hmm. So she had this snap-on bracelet where you snap it on and then it ties, right? So I said, where'd you get that? She said, I made it. And her older sister was like chuckling over there. Yeah, right, you made it. And I was like, so what's the deal? She's like, she just put a couple of stickers on it, so she claimed she made it. Mm-hmm. I was like, is that true? She's like, yeah, I made it. So I was like, oh, great. I made my car because I bought my car from the shop and then I put a sticker on it, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, you made it.
Right. It's probably that youth sense of we just create something, but it's new to us. It's novel to us.
Yep. I think it's a feeling of empowerment. that you came up with something out of nothing, and it's really empowering to feel that you did something.
So from that young age, then how did you take it forward?
Well, eventually after a period of breaking a lot of things, mm-hmm. and experimenting with a lot of my family's equipment and tools in the house, I realized that whatever I could think about, mm-hmm. or whatever I thought I created,
right,
somehow already existed somewhere.
Right.
Especially discovering the internet and Google search and looking things up as a teenager. So at one point I was like, I can't really create anything original because everybody has already made something before, mm-hmm. that I could think about. So I decided hey, why not just introduce these ideas to my surrounding and my friends instead of trying to be someone who created things. And that's when I started doing lots of experiments, looking up stuff on the internet and trying it out with my friends and schoolmates.
So you're still in the process. The process always trying out or trying to create, not necessarily invent, but at least the act of creating has always been with you.
Yes, I believe it was something that my parents definitely did not discourage.
Okay.
And something that I personally really enjoyed. I had this feeling of always wanting to know how things work, mm-hmm. and gaining early access to the internet at 10 years old or 9 years old really helped.
Right.
Because whenever you have questions, you could search it up and you could look up and you start reading all sorts of things and finding out all sorts of information. One of my favorite websites growing up was called howstuffworks.com.
It was a TV channel too. No, a TV show also.
Yeah, they made a TV show about it. I've been seeing it's still relevant today. and I'm rediscovering it at the moment.
Okay.
At the time, like I used to read about 3 to 5 articles on how things work a day, and it's so fascinating, from exploding manholes to why manholes are circular,
Right.
and more deeper topics like how special relativity works. I would read the whole thing, but not understand really what it totally means.
Okay.
But know that light is the fastest thing that can move, or the light is the thing that moves at the fastest speed ever, and time can slow down as you speed up towards the speed of light, which is mind-bending and mind-boggling, right? So at this point, I also discovered what evolution was, and it started really like shaking my foundations of what I learned in spirituality and religion.
Okay.
So I think when I was about 13, I rocked up to my parents' room while they were asleep at 11 p.m. and barged in and woke them up, and I said, I have something to tell you. And they were like, what? And I was like, I don't believe in God anymore.
Oh dear.
And they said, great, go to sleep. So it's things like that. That's how I really love discovering how things work, how things are made, and where things come from. And these are the questions that kind of is my zeitgeist that drives me to always go into further and look deeper into a situation.
Right. So taking it further, I mean, more like going on to the next step. Okay. You mentioned to me that like with all these questions, with all this curiosity, you could have probably been towards a technical field like an engineering or a
Understood.
but
Yep.
you took physics instead, right?
Yeah, I think physics is the ultimate study of how things work.
Oh, okay.
And I just really love knowing how things work, right?
Because my next question is, okay, out of making things, like how did you come across choosing physics out of all the educational possibilities?
Well, I think, yes, in the early days of how stuff works when I was 13 and 14 years old, what really sparked my interest was how energy is created and what is energy, and
Right.
like where does it come from? It can't be created or destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to the other. Like, what is this E equals to mc squared, and mass is energy, and then there's renewable energy. There's energy in waves, in the sun, in your body. You eat food and it's converted to energy, and energy is the ability to do work. I find this really fascinating,
Yep.
and I wanted to understand how I could learn more about energy, or how energy started, and how I can utilize energy in its renewable forms.
Right.
And so it was a no-brainer for me. From the age of about 14, I knew I wanted to do physics.
Right.
Before that, my first dream was an astronaut when I was 5. After wanting to be an astronaut, I think I kind of like settled for aerospace engineering or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I loved computers, and I wanted to do computers. Then my dad sent me to work in a computer shop when I was 13.
Right.
And I realized like I could fix a computer after 2 weeks, and it was really boring. And then physics was the next thing after that, and it's the thing that remained with me ever since. Yeah.
No, very interesting right here. So you could say the entire time in your university getting your qualifications, your degree in physics, was there always, so you were still inquiring perhaps as physicists do, on a more deeper, and then the next level of deep, and then the next level of deep.
Yeah, I just want to go deeper and deeper all the time into getting to know how things work. Like, why do we exist? What are we here? What is God?
Right.
What is spirituality? What is a wave function? How does quantum mechanics works?
Okay.
Spooky action at a distance. How can two particles always be entangled with each other, even though light can't travel between the two of them, and they're so far away? It's just like a kind of satisfaction in the ability to understand something a little bit deeper, because we can only understand so much because we are limited by our minds, by our experiences,
Right.
by the number of dimensions that we exist in, and our intuition. And physics really gets to hone your mind
Right.
to develop something called counterintuitive intuition, which is something you can only train to have,
Okay.
because it's not something naturally gifted to anybody. You got to learn this. Like quantum mechanics, for example, is not what we experience every day, but it's a set of laws that if you understand, these are axioms that you can develop more assumptions and theories upon those things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing is that you're suggesting that studying it is almost counterintuitive because it's sort of, you could say, perception breaking.
Yes, because it's not how our world works, right? But that's how the universe works.
Okay. Then, in terms of the course of study, what might you suggest that? Hey, how do you focus? How do you develop? How do you train yourself to stick with it?
Personally?
Yeah, personally.
Well, I always want to discover the truth.
Right.
Right? And the truth is out there, and the truth is like absolute from my point of view.
Right.
Because you could base your life saying that everything is subjective. And I think a lot of people in the arts fields or social fields,
Right.
They look at things that way. Everything is a matter of perspective. You know, it's depending on your point of view and your way of reference. Yes, I believe those things too on a certain scale. But what really evokes my curiosity and passion is that there is absolute truth that exists that can be discovered if we look deep enough.
Right.
And the various truths that we see or that we experience are probably limited forms of that absolute truth. So if there is a theory that we find that the model works and it predicts the results that we're trying to it predicts the results that we observe
Right.
based on the model, that model is true in that situation. But there might be a more overarching model that encompasses this current model in a more larger circumstance, right? And that pursuit of like going deeper into that is what I really like find mind-blowing about life itself, And it's not just me, like there are countless academics, individuals over centuries who've been trying to discover things from universal constants to fundamental equations that pretty much govern everything we take for granted in the modern world today, right?
Okay. So the thing then that happens is that when you come out of, you came out with your degree in physics, but it wasn't necessarily the lab work that you got into.
Yeah, I guess sometimes not.
I mean,
yeah.
what was your early experience to say, okay, now I've got my papers in physics. What do I do next?
I mean, I didn't really know what I wanted to do next.
Okay.
That's for sure.
Right.
I knew I wanted to help people, and I knew I wanted to be part of something that is bigger than myself, and it could have been anything at that point in time. So I just took life one step at a time to see what was going to happen. As soon as I finished my degree, I got a boat with my friend, and we started building it up. So I was honing my building skills on how to put things together: fiberglassing, woodworking, metalworking, plumbing, electricals, etc. And I was setting that up as a home that is mobile, right? And eventually, just like a few months down the line, I got a phone call from one of my friends asking for some help to build a machine, which was a agricultural waste dryer.
Okay.
And given the opportunity to help a friend, like it was a no-brainer for me because that's what I want to do in my life. I want to help people. And in less than a week, I came back to Malaysia and I started working on the project with him.
All right, this is from UK, is it?
I was in the UK. Yeah.
From UK, and then that sort of like persuaded you to come back to
Yeah.
Malaysia.
So like, this friend of mine, like he's known me. He's like a brother, mentor, and he's known me from before I went to study overseas too. And he told me, you go and study physics, and then like I've got this engine that we're going to take and we're going to convert it into biogas, and like we're going to do this project, and like we're going to make energy like this and things like that, because he knew that's what I was passionate about.
Right.
And like he waited for me to do my degree, and then he called me up as soon as it was over and said like, what you're doing over there, wasting your time, come back now and let's start making machines. Yeah.
Well, I mean, an interesting question is that you could have been a lab physicist in England.
Yep.
But you kind of followed your heart back to where
Yep.
the possibility is instead.
I definitely knew I was coming back to Malaysia.
All right.
That was even before I went. And my friends did try persuading me over there, like, I have really good friends and family now in the UK.
Okay.
Of staying back and living life over there. Even got a couple of marriage proposals just for immigration's sake, right? But I knew that Malaysia is a developing country, and it could go either way. And I had enough people that I've seen, friends who didn't want to come back to Malaysia because of what the circumstance was in
Right.
this country, and like, you know, how far can you go with certain aspirations and dreams. But this would lead to a talent drain in the country.
Okay.
And this is something that I disagree with, because like, if all talented people leave, right, then what's going to happen to the place? And if we're a developing country, it means we could go either way. We could end up like Jakarta, which is like beyond repair to an extent, or we could end up like Singapore, which is like, you know, super advanced, first world country, not just first world infrastructure, but first world mindsets too. And I wanted to be part of Malaysia's growth, and that's why I came back here.
I mean, it's not so much just where you come from that you know that eventually you will come back to Malaysia, but it's also you see the situation of, as a developing country, back to your personal belief that how can I help the greatest number of people, right?
Yes, that's right. I want to be a good human. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's not wrong, because that's part of my purpose for doing Plusma-cast too,
Nice.
just in a different way.
Nice.
Okay, so back to the story of the engine, right?
Okay.
No, the bioprocessor.
Yeah. But like, just let me just add something that this guy said a few months ago. Like, he had it on a T-shirt. Recognize the whole human race as one.
Okay.
Like, it's either you see yourself as special or unique, or you see yourself in everybody else around you, right? And I think we are all equal, and we are all born equal, right? And I'm not going to be someone who's like, oh, I want to do this because of me, and like, I'm special, and you know, I'm smarter than somebody else, or I want to make more money for myself, and that's it. You know, yes, we have the selfish gene within all of us, but we're all part of something bigger,
Yeah.
and we're all born equal. We're all born naked. We're going to die naked, and we're going to go, you know, go somewhere after that. We don't know
Well,
where.
That one might be questions of philosophy that.
Yeah.
You know,
Sorry.
whether-
So,
no, I mean, yeah, sure. I was like, there's probably an opportunity somewhere for this.
yeah.
Okay, but again, back to the story of you know, you're still helping with machines. You're helping building your ideas, building certain work, you know, certain skills.
Yep.
And
Correct.
so from that agri dryer, what next? Like, was it directly to the next project? You're going project to project, or you thought let's build a platform, or let's build a movement?
Well, with the passion for renewable energy that I had, and my partner's passion for agriculture,
Right.
he had a farm
Okay.
of about 200 cows and 400 goats, and he was like a little bit disillusioned with that industry because of the state of the agricultural infrastructure and support provided by the government in Malaysia, and
Right.
it doesn't come anywhere close to what Thailand is offering, or any other Southeast Asian country. You know, we have abundant resource here, but the support networks are not really there.
Sure.
So we were doing the dryer for we were drying soya bean for cattle feed, so to produce high quality milk and increase the yield of milk per cow.
Okay.
So we're doing lots of experiments at the time and trying to figure out what is the best formula, what are the best ingredients. Is it soya bean waste? Is it lentils, legumes? Is it nuts? Because like I know that. Okay, never mind about that. Yeah, so we were doing this work first, and through that work, we recognized that palm kernel cake was one of the main ingredients in animal feed. It had a price of about 350 ringgit a ton, but it was going up very rapidly in that time because you can get this cake from the palm oil waste industry, and you can utilize it directly for animal feed. Yet, discovering this oil was only 20 to 22% of the produce from the palm oil industry,
Right.
the whole palm tree. So there's 80% of
unused.
waste actually being underutilized, and the only things that were being sold were the shells and the kernel cake, because you break it up, you can sell it as it is, right? Malaysians are lazy. We like to do make a lot of money without doing a lot of work. That's just our way, I feel. or we want to get somebody else to do the work and then make money from it. So we looked at ways of like what other ways were there that we could utilize, and what pathways that we could go with it. So the most interesting was the empty fruit bunch. So this is like the bunch that the palm fruits are stuck to.
I mean, the fruit is stripped and then
and there's this bunch.
Right.
So this bunch itself is about like 25-30% of the waste,
Yep.
and it's 70% water. So it's really hard to dry. Yet it was very interesting because there's fibers that you can get out of this. There's fibers for feed. There was fibers for like what the cushions that we're sitting in right now.
Textiles, yeah.
Textiles industry. We could also have compost from it. We could have eco mats that we could use to prevent erosion. There were so many pathways that could be created from this particular material.
All right.
So we started going into this field and trying to come up with a biorefinery as an integrated solution to the EFB problem in Malaysia. So that's what I did next. Learned a lot of lessons along the way. Honed a lot of skills. Learned a lot about business world in Malaysia. The cutthroatness, the greed, and just the general like disillusion with large scale industries in this country. So I did that for 3 years and felt disillusioned by it myself. We did a plant that was about 80% complete. We never finished it because of various factors at the time.
Okay.
And then I stopped doing that. And it's like, wow, to do something, it's not easy. Like it takes a lot of different components to get something together. Like you need skills, you need team, you need space, you need finance, you need buy-in, partnerships, political will, feedstock, engineering, all sorts, right? So I decided that, hey, I want to go and set this up first before attempting to do something without having any of that. And that's when the biji-biji initiative was born.
Right. Okay. So from then, was that in the sense of taking a break or taking a hiatus so that you learn more to prepare yourself, or was it a move away into a different form of product or idea?
Not really. Like it wasn't a break.
Okay.
And it isn't really a moving away,
Okay.
because like I love energy. I love the waste problem, you know. And like the biggest waste I always say is human potential.
Okay.
And that should be addressed. Like if anything that we want to start, recycling or upcycling, it should be us ourselves and what we can do with our time and mental capacity and energy. Well, biji-biji initiative is a method to get where I wanted to go with my previous project.
Okay.
And I still want to do that, and I still believe really strongly in like coming up with sustainable energy solutions for Malaysia, as well as globally, that can be done in a decentralized form within small communities with modular resources. Biji-biji is me getting it ready, getting myself ready, getting the team, equipping ourselves with the skills and knowledge, getting the CNC equipment,
Right.
the tools, learning how to use them, creating the brand, getting the story out there. So there's all these gears, like cogs to make a machine work, that I didn't have when I first started. And I just tried to create a machine without having all the components together. And failing at that point has made me learn to set myself up. So it's like a 20-year dream, and it's one baby step at a time.
Okay. Perhaps to sort of pull it back a bit now. So you started biji-biji and such. Could you, could you put it in probably a little bit more clarity? Okay, what is the goal or what is the objective that biji-biji is trying to do?
Okay. Well, our tagline is very simple.
Okay.
We make things, right? And we want to show others how they can make things too. Because like how to realize something from an imagination into a real world product. But we don't want to just make anything, because you can make a lot of waste. You can make a lot of useless items or like things that are polluting and damaging.
Right.
We wanted people to learn how they could be more sustainable and accountable for their actions and the things they do and the things that they create or the things that they purchase.
Right.
So biji-biji was founded to address the urban waste problem by getting people to look at their behaviors and what they do and how they do it. So we don't go and like recycle a few thousand tons of plastic on a daily basis,
Okay.
or neither do we like, produce like megawatts of power. But biji-biji is a behavioral change program.
So, I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, there might be some mega project that's, as you say, recycles thousands of tons of waste, or perhaps, large scale energy, sustainable energy. But if it would keep perpetuating, I mean, the unsustainable still perpetuates, and because we have not helped the people to understand their contributions on the individual level. So, as you said, it's as much as it is about projects, it's about education.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the only thing that we can really change is ourselves, right? And biji-biji is here to remind people that, hey, new ways can exist. New ways do exist. Hey, we are a living example of it. Like when we first started, and when most people first start whatever endeavors or entrepreneurship journeys that they do, you get met with a lot of resistance.
Yes.
A lot of people who tell you why your idea will fail, and how it will not work, or how you should go out of Malaysia to go and get it achieved.
Yeah.
So biji-biji is biji-biji means seeds, right?
Yes, correct.
It's new business models for the future. We're showing people, hey, this works too. We're the little things that make the big things work. And if we can prove that we exist, right?
Okay.
Doing this, that means so can you. Like if this long-haired Malaysian boy from Selayang with his friends can put something like this together, what more can you do with all your potential within yourself and all the networks and the support and your knowledge and everything that you have? If I can do it, definitely so can you, right? And that's why we're here.
I mean, very fascinating because, again, I mean, to flip it back, it's like that's how that's in a way how I started Plusma-cast too.
All right.
That I was looking for something. I used to work professionally as an architect in architecture.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
However, again, there's the question of projects being so long. Do we see the result? We put in a lot of hours, and we are invested to make it work. But at the same time, it might be so detached because we are not the end users. We're just the designers, doing a top-down approach.
Correct.
With again, what you see as maybe a very difficult relation between we, the creator, and the user at the end.
Yeah, like a small cog in the whole big thing, right? Yeah.
So, so what I did instead, I kind of flipped the idea. I got off construction industry, and I found out that what do I do next? And I created Plusma-cast because it comes back to our personal belief that how might we do something to help a lot of people.
Yeah, we're like a new generation, right? We want to do what matters. I think it's a little bit different from how it used to be, maybe for our parents or grandparents and things, that they had different issues.
Yeah.
Right, and we have different issues that we are faced with. We need to address ourselves. Like why we do what we do really matters, and we want to find meaning in that. Yeah. I think our generation is kind of like that,
Okay, so from biji-biji, it was about. I mean, it's in the form of cultural, culture, changing the way of culture, and change by educating people how we can make things to our own potential. You can imagine it, and that. So right now, I checked recently, and biji-biji was about fashion. That's probably not it's part of it, but not the right full picture.
That's right. Yeah. So we do a lot of stuff.
Okay.
We were experimenting. We were seeing what works. We had like 5 departments or 6 departments. Can't even count them sometimes. So we did sustainability, where we do consultancy, and we're building that. We did events and programming.
Okay.
Like biji-biji recycles all the waste for Rainforest World Music Festival, for example. We've done ethical fashion, as you said. We've done fabrication. So like we build everything from furnitures to art installations, and we had a technology team doing open source electronics, interactive installations, etc. And we had an education team
Right.
who was going out there and spreading this Bloom's taxonomy, higher order thinking skill of creating and empowering people to create their own upcycle products from waste. So yeah, biji-biji was a bit of like an octopus with many tentacles, championing different facets of what sustainability could mean.
Right.
And fashion is one of them, yes, of course.
Okay. Now, okay, one thing I gotta ask is that you've had your previous experiences in businesses, and you took that to establishing biji-biji. So, the thing I want to ask in a bit more detail is that this is, in a way, an entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurship process, and perhaps it might be said that you've managed to build something this far, this big.
Yep.
And how do you? So you managed to build something this far, this big, and some of the questions that people prevent themselves is, okay, what can I do? That one is more personal, but also other things like, how do I find my people and how do I get my funding? So
Yep.
those are also big questions in terms
Understood.
of entrepreneurship. How might you answer that?
Okay. Well, personally, the experience that I had in my previous job, it wasn't a corporate experience, right, or anything like that. So I can't give that perspective. But what I learned was do something small first, test it out,
Right.
learn from it, make it better, and then repeat.
Okay.
So like one step at a time, right? Using the agile method. Because like in my first endeavor, I was making really big machines without prototyping or testing or R&Ding it because that was what the job required.
Okay.
And at that scale, like every little issue or every troubleshooting step took like a week to solve, and it wasn't very agile or very smooth, and it's very expensive to come up with a solution for that. So what I learned is like do it small first, and that's why biji-biji,
Yep.
things. It's the little things that make the big things work, as well as like try it out, short bursts, quick, minimum viable products, see what works, go to market, test it out, see whether it works or not, or works for your business, and then iterate and continue. So that's the first thing that I learned. And the second thing that I learned as well, especially with biji-biji initiative, was like my partner Rashwin puts this the statement really well. It's like, if you want to go fast,
Right.
you go alone. If you want to go far, you got to go together.
Okay.
Because I'm only this one person with this little skill set that I have, and I'm really good at certain things, but that makes me bloody horrible at a lot of other things. And how do I get those things done? Do I struggle, or do I beat myself up and say like I'm a bear who needs to be a cow, or do I get somebody else who's an expert at that and work together with them to achieve the common objective that we have? So through biji-biji, we've worked together with a lot of friends and volunteers, partners, enterprises out there, and that's really like how we started growing and how we started scaling. So I would advise anybody who wants to start something, like find yourself a good team.
Right.
That's super important. Like, don't be an island. You want to be a sole founder, that's fine, sure thing, but work with a team, and they are going to help you beyond belief on things that you're never going to be able to achieve yourself. And the second is like, if you have a big vision or a big ambition, that's great. Everyone needs a vision, everyone needs an ambition, but stagger it. Think about your vision and your mission, and think about one really small thing that you can do to get there. Make that work first.
Right.
Monetize that, go to market with that, test it out, and then go to the next step. Don't try to do everything to get to the vision, because your vision isn't going to be achieved tomorrow. Like personally, like for me, this is what I learned. Like I have a vision for biji-biji that's 20 years in the future before I can get there.
Right.
But there's so many things that I can do right now already, to test out, to practice, to learn, to develop, and one step at a time. We literally bought one tool at a time when we started. One drill, one grinder. Happiest day was when we had a welding machine. And we've grown those tool sets project by project, task by task, until we have a laser cutter now, 3D printers, a CNC water jet,
Okay.
PCB milling machines, etc.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of biji-biji, or okay, probably the question then is that how does Me.reka come into the picture? Was it the next step of biji-biji, or was that you needed a space to further push ideas?
It's always the next step.
Okay.
Like it's what we wanted to do from the start, right? Open workshop, inspire people to realize their own creations into reality and real world products. People told us that the government should be doing your job, so we went to see the government. We've been to a lot of places, CRIM, been to 3 CRIM centers
Right.
repeatedly, been to Technology Park, Malaysia, engaged them on certain projects, MIMOS.
Okay.
These are institutions that are meant to support entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs in the locality to realize their projects. However, for various reasons, I'm not going to mention, like
I mean,
Yeah.
whatever you can.
it's not really working out, right? What they do, like they can support an industrial client wanting to create the next MRT, but they're not here to support small medium entrepreneurs and the little people, people like me and my team who want to do big things. So we always loved the concept of a makerspace, a fab lab, open workshop. Open source has been driving principles of biji-biji initiative. We were in a couple of bungalows in Jalan Ipoh when we first started. The doors were always open. Even the ice cream man could come and fix his truck over there whenever
Right.
he needed, use our tools, etc. It wasn't very child friendly at the time. So Me.reka was a natural part of the plan. We didn't know it was going to be called Me.reka. We had names like biji-biji labs when we first started, and we always knew that this is where it's going towards. But it would take time before we could get there,
Right.
because we can't afford everything. Neither can we afford the space, the tools,
No.
all these things. We had to send a lot of sponsorship letters over the period. But we imagine it first, and like one of my favorite physicists, Paul Dirac, he said that if it can happen, it will happen, right? Just like the atom bomb. And he was part of the people who derived the formulas for it. So yeah, Me.reka was the next step, because hey, we're making things, but who are we? Like we're just like 20 people, 30 people. How much can we make? What can this little team of biji-bijis do really to make a difference? How can we like move this idea further? How can we scale it up? What can we really do that actually can bring meaningful impact to society within Malaysia and the ASEAN region? Besides just being like, these are the people who did it and they are the ones to make it work, or this is their story and that you should be inspired by it. So we want to show others how they too can be masters of their own destiny, to realize their own creations from imagination to product.
Right.
Give them access to technology, skills, expertise, space, tools, for them to go through their own entrepreneurial journeys. And that's why we started Me.reka.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting that it's a continuous evolution from you're young of what could I do, and then it goes to developing your skills. Like it might not be directly related, but that principle of using my energy to create, to make, to change.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
and yeah, as you're mentioning, it's a continuous evolution.
Yes.
So what I'm gonna say is actually, for the audience information, Me.reka is a Malay word for them. But in the case of how they've established their branding, it's Me.reka or I invent.
Yes, it's a pun, yeah.
Yeah.
Or could it be them?
Yeah, them invent. Yeah.
Yeah, Me.reka is also them, you guys, you know.
Yep.
So there's us, biji-biji, making our stuff. And now there's a Me.reka's, as biji-biji's tagline is we make things.
Okay.
Me.reka's tagline is what will you make? Right? And that's the question we're asking the public. And anything you want to make, we're here. We're going to help you, support you, be there with you, and make a difference together.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating.
Thank you, bro.
Okay. So, right. So it's many years in the journey, and now you've got this. It's this very interesting space. We'll have photos of it later.
All right.
Okay. So this space where people can fabricate, they can fabricate meat, electronics, textile, woodworking and such. So it's come a long way. Where do you see all this moving forward?
All right. So there's three main things that you can do over here. So on one hand, Me.reka is a space for everyday people, parents, kids, people who are interested in making DIY, etc. We're going to run a plethora of creative workshops, and we want to connect passionate people who want to share with passionate learners.
Right.
So Me.reka, in this sense, is a little bit of a platform for creative education. When children or adults alike start using their hands and start creating their own things, it really activates a lot of different parts within one's mind. And then you go back and you can start creating things from nothing, because you're like, oh yeah, I went there and I did this, and I took a plastic bottle and now it's a torchlight. You're going to go back home and you're going to look at all your items and be like, oh yeah, this can be that, and do this with that. Oh, my old TV is broken, I'm going to make a Fresnel lens from it, something like that. So that's generally to inspire the public to be accountable for what they use and what they can reuse and what they can create. On the other hand, number two is we're kind of a lab for inventors, innovators, entrepreneurs, etc.
Right.
A lot of people are, as we said, great at one thing and not so good at other things. So where do you get support network to help you realize your creations and your entrepreneurship journey?
Okay.
So we have at least 30 people at the moment, and we want to scale this platform up to connect thousands of people together. So kind of a marketplace network where if you need a particular help with a particular skill, we're going to connect you together with an expert, and you can start working with them on the project. So it's like Fiverr, but not just for digital stuff. This is a very hands-on, even if you're an electronics expert, you still need a box. So who's going to help you make that box, right? Otherwise, how are you going to sell your product? That's a simple example. If you're an expert at woodworking, you want to make a piece of furniture, you still need the textiles person to I can't remember the word. Upholstery. Yeah, do your upholstery for you. Thank you, Paul. And that's the second pillar of Me.reka. And thirdly, which is the most important, I believe, we are here to show or to share about careers of the future with the general public. So 21st century skills, which is highly relevant today, is about values. In a world where machines are going to do so much for us, and everything is going to be automated and routine, and the big scares of how people might lose jobs in the future, or do we really need to study accountancy anymore and things like this? What does it really mean for you to be a human? And what does it really mean for you to have a career in the future? And a lot of research and studies look at 21st century skills as the main thing to teach the future generation. And what is 21st century skills? It's creativity, it's empathy, it's invention, it's collaboration. It's all very human values, right? And these values enable us to learn how to learn. If we have those values ingrained within us, we can learn anything, and we need to be able to learn things on the fly, because in such a fast changing world, how do we equip ourselves for the future? And that is where Me.reka is actively playing a part in in the Malaysian society. We want to expose our population to the fourth industrial revolution ideas of cryptocurrency to Internet of Things to artificial intelligence, virtual reality, etc. And we want to show people how they can have confidence, which is a really big value in 21st century skills. Like confidence is the key, right? If you can't believe in something, that means you can't imagine it possible in your own mind, then it's probably never going to happen in real life, is it? You need to be able to visualize the thing from a small reality in one's mind to a bigger reality that is shared between others around us. So that is really the space that Me.reka is positioning ourselves into. We don't want to be a university.
Right.
We want to complement the formal education system. You know, a university is bureaucratic. If they're going to change their syllabus and pedagogy, it's going to take years, right? With approvals, etc. And they have merit, and there is a value for what the university does and how it is. But in today's day and age, like, you know, you want to learn things on the fly. Like, you know, you can do an online course in 2 months, and like, you know, you can be an expert in digital marketing, or etc. Something like this. We come into that space. Like, if we see a really cool technology, like the other day we saw a PCB milling machine that can do really awesome stuff. We ordered it the next day, and now it's here. And like, you know, now you can mill PCBs. Like, if I go to CRAM's office, they still have a 3D printer from the 90s where the filament or resin costs 1,000 ringgit a kilogram. So it's a different space that we're playing in, and I think we complement each other quite well.
Okay. So it sounds like more like a, it sounds more like a mission, and the timeline is practically irrelevant because it's skills regardless, and it's helping people regardless, and it's and it's basically how do we help people again.
That's right.
Right. Again, regardless of time, it's just the mission, and it goes on, whether it's 5, 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Beyond
so
that.
Learning is lifelong, right?
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. It sounds fascinating.
You like it?
I like it.
All right, Paul, let's do it. I hope you guys like it too. Because Me.reka is here for everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so if you don't mind, I will get into you could say the three questions that I ask in every episode of Plusma-cast.
Wonderful.
For those who have the idea,
okay,
like maybe they're 5, maybe that's like you 7 or 5 or 12. They have that early idea of I want to do something, be it creative or otherwise.
Correct.
What can you advise, or what can you suggest, or what can you advise them about what to do with that idea that they have?
I say do first, think later, because like it's only real if it's shared with those around you. So it's still imaginary if it's only in your head. So share your idea, do a very small version of it, test it out, get some validation, and then take it further. Because it's no use just existing in your head, because then it's imaginary. And like, don't be afraid. Like, what's the worst that could happen? People mock you and ridicule you. Like, that's fine, but like, don't have to feel bad about that.
I mean, they might not be people who are on board anyway with your vision, with that idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody has an opinion, like, and it's usually quite negative. Just ignore people, because they don't know what's going on within yourself and your psyche and your being. Only you know yourself, and only you can do something about it. So do it, lah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So from idea to skills, how might you? So for someone who says, okay, now I want to change my idea, to take my idea forward.
Yep.
What might you advise them into developing their skills in order to drive their ideas?
How to develop your skills to drive your ideas? Right. I think the agile method is really good. Once again, take one small step towards your destination. See what happens, experience it, learn from it, and develop it further, and then take the next step, one step at a time. Besides that, learn from other people. Like, something that someone with experience would say to me. Like, sometimes when I hear an expert talk about something, I feel like I just saved 10 weeks of my life. Or sometimes I feel like I saved 3 years of my life just by hearing somebody's 1 or 2 sentences, right? Because that person probably speaks from years of experience, of mistakes, of countless hardships and suffering for them to formulate that, epiphany like statement. And yeah, learn from others. Don't have to suffer yourself. Don't have to like reinvent the wheel. The wheel's been invented. Use it, right? And copy. That's always really good. Like, as I said, like I realized at one point that nothing that I could really create would be so unique only to me, because there's 7 billion people in the world who, if each of them have 7,000 ideas a day, is like a lot of trillion ideas, in the world. So just copy other people. It's fine, learn from them and then take it further. There's no need to do everything yourself.
I mean, as an anecdote, you probably save yourself, hundreds or thousands of hours through how it works.
Yeah, how stuff works. And now it's called YouTube. Like, we watch YouTube all the time, see what's happening over there, and then we give it a shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so we've covered the idea,
Okay.
and we've covered gaining the skills to make those ideas work.
Getting the skills, yep.
And now it's, how might you advise someone who is starting out on their vocational journey to say, okay, I've got the idea, I've got the skills, now how do I put all this together and make something?
I think it's a continuous process between all 3 things that you mentioned. It's not like you do one and then you do the second and then the third.
Okay.
They're all interplaying at the same time, like I'm sure you have lots of ideas, guys. Like, you have an idea today, learn something about it, test it out in the same day if you can. Maybe it's a more longer term idea. Break your ideas up into smaller components and learn those smaller components. Like keep dividing them into small bite-sized chunks and then keep testing it out and keep doing it and get validation, right? That's the most important. Like, always go to market, sell your idea, see whether people want to buy it. Because, one thing I learned that's quite useful is like, there's no point in like giving people things that you want to do, which I did for a lot of years. And because I had all these ideas and I was like, yeah, this is great, I'm going to do this for people and blah, blah, blah. You need to think about your customer and what they really want and do stuff that they want, not things that you want to do, right? So I don't know if that makes sense.
I mean, in a business to market sense, that makes sense. But you just mentioned that angle. Is that a bit of a contradiction?
Okay.
Because on the one hand, it's you want to contribute.
Understood.
And it's a personal idea. But then you might discover that that's that might be a mismatch, or that might not exactly be it.
Yeah, it's a balance, like you're one person who want to do all these things, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to be practicing in the business world, in the free market. So you got to give people what they want, not what you want to do necessarily. Like, if those 2 things gel together, that's perfect. That's like imagination made into utopia and reality. It's not always like that. And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum, where like there's some people who they just work 8 hours a day to get a salary to support their living or income or family, and then they want to do their passion and stuff like in the last 2 hours, of their day, or like in certain days of the week. There's a mismatch there as well. You want to do what you love, but remember that it's a free market, so you really got to be serving your customers, and you got to know who they are, what they're interested in, like really understand them. You can't say that my solution is for everybody.
Right.
It doesn't work like that in this day and age. There's so much noise out there. If you really want to like float like a lotus flower above a pool of filth, you got to be relevant, and you got to know who it is you're bringing value to.
Okay. All right. Now the final bit. Okay.
Okay.
Now the final bit. Do you have any, you could say last words or advice or insight or even a shameless plug for yourself?
All sorts.
All sorts. Oh dear.
But yeah, I mean, come join us at Me.reka in 2019. We've got things in store for you every weekend for the general public. We want you to experience what we're talking about firsthand.
Okay.
And just come over, number one. Number two, if like you're somebody trying to do something and you're not so sure how to achieve it, or you need some help or skills, etc.,
Okay.
just come to Me.reka and we're here to help you out with it. Number three, if you want to learn something, come to Me.reka. We'll be really happy to share with you what we know. And our mission is to connect passionate people who want to share
Okay.
with passionate people who want to learn. So if also you're a trainer, you're somebody who's doing something out there, you love education, come partner with us and we'll help you find the customers that you need, because not everybody who does education needs to be doing the marketing, etc. in this business. Yeah, so come to Me.reka. That is my plug.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're in Publica Shopping Gallery.
Okay. So, thank you very much, Gurpreet.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
So, so this is the end of another episode of Plusma-cast. If you want to know more about Gurpreet, or get in contact with him, or even come to Me.reka, that's the easiest. But if you want to know more or get in contact, we have the slide at the end of the show, and you can also check the description on how to get in touch online.
Yep.
Okay?
We have a chat bot, Me.reka.my.
Okay.
Just click the button.
Click the button, check the description. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul.